Hi, my name is Bruce Kelly, and I'll be presenting to you information about cowboy boots and how you can make your own. When you think of Texas, what comes to mind? Some people think of its rich history, they think of outlaws in the Wild Wild West, but nothing is more of a symbol of that time period than the cowboy. And next to a cowboy's hat, his boots are an essential part of his identity. Now, when I think of a cowboy in boots, I think of a wild and rugged criminal committing great heists and fleeing from the law on horseback with guns blazing. This is the image of the cowboy that the media most often portrays. This thought, however, is somewhat of a misconception. You may be surprised to know that this is not the real cowboy for whom cowboy boots were first designed. Now, when Anglo-Americans settled the Southwest in the 19th century, they encountered Mexican ranchers already there working cattle. Now, this is where the American cowboy got the idea of ranching cattle from. But the footwear that the Mexican ranchers were wearing did not suit the work that they were doing. So, German bootmakers who emigrated to the Southwest during the 19th century designed a new cowboy boot to enhance the cowboy's effectiveness on horseback while cattle ranching. Let's start with the cowboy boots design. According to MadeHow.com, traditional cowboy boots have narrow toes, high heels with a slope under the foot, and leather tops that raise halfway up the shins. The narrow toes of the cowboy boot make it easier to slide your feet in and out of the stirrups on a horse's saddle when mounting or dismounting the animal. The high heels prevent your feet from slipping all the way through the stirrups and getting stuck. Now, this would happen to cowboys, and if their feet got stuck in the stirrups and they happened to be thrown off the animal, they could be dragged by their horse for miles, usually to their death. And the leather tops that raise to the shin of the boots protect the wearer's feet from chafing from the constant motion of riding the horse on the saddle. The reinforced arches help the cowboy to stand on the saddle while riding and horse ranching. Now, let's move on to the steps you will need to make your own cowboy boots. In order to do so, these are the materials you will need. You will need leather, a pair of cutters or any sharp tool strong enough to cut through leather, tacks, metal shanks, nails, glue, insoles, and a last. And what a last is basically anything that would take the place of your foot. And you will use this last to mold the cowboy boot around to take its final shape. Now, the first step, you're going to cut your leather into three main pieces: the vamp, the uppers, and the counter. The vamp is basically the top part of the shoe that goes over the top of your foot and your toes. The uppers are the rising part of the cowboy boot that goes up to your shin. And the counter is the back part of the boot that forms around the heel of your foot. Now, after you have assembled these three main parts, this is the step that you would take to add whatever decoration you would like to the leather. And some people take the time to put a floral design or a random pattern on the leather, whatever suits you. After you decide on your decorations, if any, you should divide the leather strips into the front and back components. This will make it easier for you to assemble the boot. Now, to the front part, you will attach the vamp. So now you have the front part of the upper and the vamp covering the top of the foot. So basically it's the front half of the cowboy boot. Then you attach the counter to the back half of the cowboy boot. So now you have the back upper, which would cover the back of your foot and the back of the shin. At this point, you would insert the last in between the front and the back halves of the cowboy boot, which have attached the vamp and the counter. Now, the last will stay in until the end of the production of this cowboy boot. Now, you tack the vamp and the counter to the last, the front and the back of the last. Only the vamp and the counter, not the uppers. Those are to remain free. Then you tack the insole to the bottom portion of the last, the underside, if you will. So now the shoe has a bottom. It's basically a full-form boot surrounding the last. And then you just nail a heel to the bottom of the sole. Now you have a full functioning cowboy boot. You may choose to glue the leather pieces together, sew them together, whatever you choose to do, it's your decision. It doesn't really affect anything other than the look of the boot, but those are your options. Now, in conclusion, we have covered the history of cowboy boots. We have explained the function of the boots and the different design aspects. And I've shown you how you can make your own. So now I hope you go out and you take your creativity, let it run wild, and design your very own cowboy boots and piece of Southwest culture.